right. To the right.
University of Alaska Fairbanks campus. Here on our right-hand side, we're passing by the campus power plant. It's a fairly new power plant, but it is a coal-burning power plant. That gets its coal from the Dispiace coal mine, which is the largest coal mine here in Alaska, and we'll be passing by the Dispiace later on as the Alaska Railroad delivers coal from the Dispiace all over Alaska. I take it as far north here as Fairbanks, and then as far south as Seward. And as we continue through the campus here in just a moment, we'll get a view of the main campus building. A few different companies took on the task of trying to construct the railroad. They thought it would make them extremely wealthy to be able to construct one single railroad through the interior of Alaska. Although unfortunately after the second company went bankrupt trying to cut their way through this vast wilderness, they underestimated just how hard that would be. That's when the U.S. government had to take over. And so they appointed Colonel Frederick Mears to the task of completing the railroad. And then we're going to be coming up alongside of it here, and we're going to follow it to the town of Nenana. So here in a little bit, on the right-hand side, you'll see the Parks Highway, and then you'll see the Anomalous River, and just on the other side will be the town of Nenana. And then we're going to be crossing over the Mears Memorial Bridge, named after Colonel Frederick Mears, who is considered the chief engineer of the Alaska Railroad. Now, back when the railroad was first constructed, the furthest north it went was the town of Nenana. The Anomalous Valley Railroad extended a few miles south from Fairbanks, and it was mostly set up for trappers and miners to be able to get their goods up to the trading post of Fairbanks, and then eventually up into the Yukon River, and then out into the Bering Sea. Now eventually the Alaska Railroad purchased the Anomalous Valley Railroad. They had to upgrade all the tracks and then extend it all the way down to the town of Nenana. And in order to connect it to the main line, they built the Mears Memorial Bridge, which of course is named after Colonel Frederick Mears, the chief engineer of the Alaska Railroad. Now once the Mears Memorial Bridge was completed, it was said that the railroad was finally completed. So in July of 1923, President Warren G. Harding came up here to the territory of Alaska, and he drove a golden spike at the north end of the Mears Memorial Bridge, signaling the completion of the Alaska Railroad. As I was saying, coming up here you'll see the Parks Highway on our right-hand side, and then the Anomalous River, and you'll see the town of Nenana just on the other side. And then we're going to be crossing over the Mears Memorial Bridge. So there is the George Parks Highway now. Now construction of the 325-mile-long Parks Highway didn't begin until 1959. But wasn't completed until 1971, so a lot of the communities we're going to be traveling through today for very long were only accessible by railroad. The highway was named after George Parks, who was the territorial governor of Alaska in the early 20s. Now, the reason I say territorial governor is because even though Alaska was purchased from Russia back in 1863, 1.2 million, less than 2 cents an acre. Alaska did not become a state, an official part of the Union, until almost 90 years later. So it wasn't until about 1959 that President Dwight Eisenhower proclaimed Alaska the 49th state of the Union, with our sister state, Hawaii, becoming the 50th in August of that same year. Off in the horizon there, you can see the Alaska Range there. And here in a moment, you can see, you'll be able to see the Tanana River. If you look up ahead of us there, that's the Mears Memorial Bridge that we're going to be crossing over. That's where President Harding drove the Golden Spike. Mid-50s, we had completely switched over to diesel electric engines that could make the trip in less than a day. And so business for the town of Nenana was starting to dwindle. It wasn't at our major stop or the furthest northern point for the railroad anymore. Nowadays, the population in Nenana is at about 500 residents, sorry. We do on occasion pick up and drop off passengers here, but this is not a major stop. megawatt coal-burning power plant that provides power to all the small communities between here and Fairbanks. And it gets its coal from the Ischia Valley coal mine. As we come around this curve here, we're now entering into the Healy Canyon. We're officially entering into the Alaska Range.
Okay, like Daniel mentioned, this is where it gets real pretty, like it has been pretty already. But the left-hand side is where the river's going to be down below us. The right-hand side is where most of the rocks are going to be. If you're trying to get a picture of the engine as it's coming around the curve, the rocks are going to most likely block your view on the right-hand side. But the left-hand side is where the river is here and more open, so if you're trying to get the shot, be on the left-hand side for that. We're also looking out for animals down below us in the river. There are moose in the area, and moose are being hunted and
Lapak bear kali itu.
tracked
Lapak
down
apa?
by predators. So
Oh itu orang sking kali ya.
Bukan, yang binatang gede.
Off to the left-hand side, those plateaus, you see cut
Ito,
into the
like,
hillside are
pasti.
natural. That's from the Banana River down the party. The car letter A, who made reservations for lunch to make their way to the dining car. If you are seated in car letter A, please make your way to the dining car if you made reservations for lunch. Talked about meandering rivers earlier. There's a little section of the Banana River that's been cut off from the main flow of water down below us on the left-hand side. There's this horseshoe lake. And this is a typical feature that you'll see in meandering rivers. They'll get more and more exaggerated. The curves will as they work their way around a rock or something that is movable, and eventually they'll pinch themselves off from the main flow of water. It will be easier at certain points where
Tidak ini pasti nggak
cut
ada deh
across.
hari itu.
So eventually,
Banyak
further gulf
hotel
will
kan.
probably be cut off and turn into a little island as the meandering river continues to change and form. That's thousands of years in the future, though. We don't need to worry about that yet. Now, a lot of people that are getting off are getting on there now, but in the summer, each of those pavilions those guys will have over 100 people stacked underneath it, and we'll have more than 500 people I think that are getting on here in Denali. Trading places with 500 people that are getting off of the train, going to Denali. Huge, loads and loads of traffic in Denali National Park. So we're going to still go outside, there's one on board. Make sure those doors are getting closed and please don't be moving around. Please remember your mask. You got a mask on over your nose and mouth for the entire duration of the tour. And please encourage if your fellow passengers moving around, if you're standing for long periods of time, please stand out of the aisle so other people can make their way through. Other side of the table got some of this bridge, the Highway Creek and Highway Creek down below it. The Highway Creek cuts down, but over here around. So if you don't miss it, there's anything flooding you go. So wait for us to come back the next day.
We'll keep an eye out, and if at any point it's nice and clear, we'll be more
Okay, so in addition to snow and weather and animals and all the other things that we gotta deal with, we also have sensors along the tracks that are watching the train and making sure that it's safe for us to continue. So here's the sensor, up at the front. One of the engineers hopped off the train to double check, make sure everything's all right. Usually it doesn't float up and launch the view of the sensor. So once that's verified that it is indeed good to continue.